Good morning. So I'll offer you opening words this morning from Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Stephanie Miller, originally from Virginia, has a bachelor's degree in music, focusing on vocal and piano performance. Stephanie has a master's in music therapy and serves as a music therapist for a pediatric hospice and palliative care program. Stephanie spends her spare time singing with the Jacksonville Symphony Chorus and raising her foster son and dogs. Welcome, Stephanie.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows and birds on the other side? Rainbows are visions, only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. Well, I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Well, look what it's done so far. Oh, amazing, that keeps us stargazing. And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell. We know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one in the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Good morning. Welcome to our Unitarian Universalist Church, an opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes a challenge. I'm Claudia Marshall. My pronouns are she and her. I'm your worship leader this morning. This Unitarian congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we figured out all of life's answers, questions, or because we think we've got it all together. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to trust and have compassion in one another. Unitarian Universalists travel many different paths to find purpose and meaning in our lives. We unite in our belief in the worth and dignity of everyone. We believe it's our obligation to express our faith through our acts of compassion and justice. We're people who actively invite intellectual and spiritual growth. Our kids ask questions and think. We practice a life-affirming faith and embrace people who are hurting, bereaved, or marginalized. Whether it's your first time in worship with us or your 100th time, we hope you'll find questions that stretch you and people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming radically. We'd like to take this opportunity to welcome any first-time or returning guests who are here today. We're so glad that you're here, and we hope you'll feel welcome and will want to get to know us. Please be sure and stop by our welcome table at the entryway, pick up some information about our church. The folks at the table will answer your questions, or they'll introduce you to someone who may be of help. You're invited to sign in as a guest and get a name tag so we can get to know you. We all offer regularly scheduled, give you a guest card to fill out, and invite you to know about our newsletter and learn about BBUUC classes. If you're interested in membership, our membership chair, Julie Smithers, raise your hand, Julie. Come on, here she is. Okay. We'll be happy to talk to you about the path to membership. Lastly, we would like to invite our guests, along with all the congregation, to join us after the service for refreshments, fair trade coffee, and great conversation. If we can now, let us rise in body and our spirit as we sing our call to worship. We are a covenantal people. Let us recite together the promises that we make to one another. You'll find it in your order of service. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a self-welcoming and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. Thank you. I would like for Liz Baldwin to come up and illuminate our chalice today. Prayer invites God to be present in our spirits and in our lives. Prayer cannot bring water to parched land, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an errant soul, mend our broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will.
Good morning, everyone. So I invite the children to hang out with your parents wherever you are right now, children of all ages. I have a story for you this morning. So except for Stephanie and Eileen and Gary, welcome back, Gary, is there anyone in this room who plays a musical instrument? Mike, I see. Yes, people. How about anyone who plays sports of any kind? You will never see my hand go up for that. So. Okay. What about drawing or painting or doing something creative? People, you engage in those kind of things? Right. Okay, good. So if I say the word practice, you know what that means, right? Anybody here have to practice piano lessons or go to football practice or practice other things? I'm practicing my drawing. I need to get my shoulders just right. I need to get how I draw feet better. So whether we practice playing the piano or guitar, the recorder or the drums, isn't your family lucky if you practice the drums? Whether you have to go to football or baseball, basketball, or dance practice. I left out dance. Anybody here a dancer that needs to go to dance practice? I see that little hand, Lee Plum, back there, so that's wonderful. We practice something when we want to get it just right. There's a way that I imagine something in my head and my heart, and if I'm a drawer, I want that to be created in what I'm drawing. A friend of mine once told me this. He said, I'll know that I have my drawing just right when I take something from inside of myself and can see that inside of my drawing. That takes practice. Anyone else have other things that you practice? Cooking? Writing? Oh yeah, that's great. Writing, singing, yoga? Okay, so you guys know the idea of practice. So I want to talk to you today about a man. Some of you will know this name. His name is Pablo Casals. Anybody recognize that name? He was born in Spain, and he is thought by many to be the greatest cellist who ever lived. His recordings of the Bach cello suite made between 1936 and 1939 are considered unsurpassed to this day. His prodigious musical talent became evident very early in his life. By the age of 4, he could play violin, piano, and flute, having been taught by the church organist and choir director, no pressure, Eileen or Gary. So when he first heard a cello at the age of 11, he decided that he would dedicate himself to that instrument. And he had already given a solo recital in Barcelona, Spain, 3 years later at the age of 14. 5 years later, at 19, he was on the faculty of the renowned Municipal School of Music in Barcelona, Spain. He was principal cellist of the Barcelona Opera House. He gained international acclaim in a career of such length that he performed in the United States for both President Theodore Roosevelt and President John F. Kennedy. That is a 60-year span. Yet even having attained such unquestionable mastery of his instrument throughout his life, Casals maintained a disciplined regimen of practicing for 5 or 6 hours every single day. On the day he died at age 96, he had already put in several hours of practicing his scales. A few years earlier, when he was 93, a friend asked him why, after everything that he had achieved, why was he still practicing as hard as ever? Because, Casals replied, I think I'm making progress. May the things that you practice bring you meaning, and may you find joy in your progress. We invite Liliana Smith to come take the chalice as the kids go to religious education. We're going to sing you to your classroom until we see you again at coffee hour.
Generosity of Spirit by Victoria Weinstein. The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather there to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that will allow us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received. Our ushers, John Wrightington and Adele DeSalvio, will now come among you to receive the gifts of the congregation. This morning's offering will be most gratefully received.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry and watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Good morning, everyone. I am so pleased to be worshiping with you as we continue our second Sunday Spirit and Practice series today. Wow, that's a mouthful. Second Sunday Spirit and Practice series. Today's focus is on personal spiritual practices. So as a reminder, in case you weren't here, in case your memory like mine may be a little sketchy sometimes, this series is about spiritual practices that help us to deepen and to develop our spirituality, our ethics, our faith, and our UU identity. So our spirituality is about our relationship to the Spirit of life. There are 1,000 different names and faces for the Spirit of life across the world. But our spirituality is about our relationship to that which we know as the Spirit of life. Our ethics is about our moral values, our ability to act on those values, and most importantly, teaching our children by example that we are moral agents capable of making a difference in the lives of other people. Our faith is about our role as meaning makers who practice our faith in relationship with others as we seek and relate to that which is of ultimate value and meaning. And our identity as Unitarian Universalists is about sustaining our holy hungers with the values, stories, symbols, and practices of Unitarian Universalism. All of this happens in covenantal relationship with one another because that's who we are. That's how we practice our relational theology. We're exploring personal spiritual practices today, but I want to just take a moment to lift up the connection between our personal spiritual practices and the well-being of our faith community. Our beloved community is healthiest when our relationships with one another are healthy. As each of us develops and deepens our spirituality, our ethics, our faith, and our UU identity, as we grow and change, our beloved community will grow and change as well. That's called transformation. That is how we thrive and flourish. One of my favorite movies, The Shawshank Redemption. Anybody else know that movie? It's one of my favorites, one of my top 5. And I don't know if you remember the line from that movie where Red says, you got to get busy living or get busy dying. So change and growth is about getting busy living. So change and transformation, in fact, is one of the bedrocks of our UU faith. There's a famous 20th century Unitarian theologian. His name is James Luther Adams. Some of you may know about him. He's a famous theological treatise called The 5 Smooth Stones of Liberal Religion. And one of those smooth stones, he says, depends on the principle. Religious liberalism, he says, depends on the principle that revelation is continuous. Revelation is continuous. Our religious tradition is a living tradition because we are always learning new truths. This is true in our personal lives. It is true when we are members of a beloved community. We discover, we learn, we grow, we change, we rest, we discover again, influenced by all we inherit and all we might imagine at this new point of discovery. So revelation is continuous. We are engaged in a transformation that is never complete, never perfect, and it is wise to develop personal spiritual practices that help us sustain this lifelong cycle of discovery, remembering to trust the still small voice within, and remembering that we covenant to learn from and with one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Thank goodness that we are in a covenantal tradition. It can be lonely work to attempt these cycles of discovery alone, and it is important to hold one another steady in times of continuous revelation because we're not always in sync, which keeps things interesting. But at our best, we help each other get there. We covenant, we promise to help each other, and that to me is one of the most profound reasons to be in UU religious community together, engaging these spiritual practice together at our best, with love, with curiosity, with respect. We help one another no matter where we are on that cycle of discovery and growth, of change and transformation. I want you to flourish, to thrive in your spiritual, ethical, and faithful lives as Unitarian Universalists, and I know that you want that for me and for one another as well. So thank you. Thank you. So with an understanding of these connections between personal spiritual practices, healthy relationships, and a healthy congregation, I draw your attention to today's Spirit and Practice insert in the order of service. I have one here somewhere. You have your Spirit and Practice insert in the order of service. So what was your gut reaction when you to an insert about prayers and praying? Anybody have a little moment about that? Manny?
How my prayer life has evolved from an anthropomorphic God to a spirit of life, like that transformation which has taken over a lifetime, where I was like asking God for this and that, and now it's more about an internal process within myself of how I see the world, how I understand the world, and how I can grow.
Thank you for sharing that, Manny. I'm going to try to summarize it because we didn't have a mic for you, but Manny has said that he went from praying to an anthropomorphic God, so an external kind of direction of prayer, to a more internal process to figure out how you navigate the transformations in life. Is that a fair summary? Okay, thumbs up for Manny, so that's a good thing. I'm aware that UUs can be reactive to prayer, the same impulse that prompts us to read ahead in the hymnal to see if we agree with the words is the same impulse that triggers resistance when we are invited into prayer. Often we first want to know, wait a minute, to whom are we praying? To whom are we praying? This can be an especially important question when we have come to Unitarian Universalism out of religious traditions where we've been taught to worship and pray exclusively to a male version of God, when we have been taught to worship and pray to a punitive and fearful God, when we have been taught to worship and pray to a God whose judgment is cruelly mimicked here on earth by those who want to oppress others because of who we are in the world, the autonomy we choose for our own bodies, who and how we know ourselves to authentically be, including whom it is that we love. Anne Lamott had a great saying, maybe you saw it on Facebook, you will indeed know that you have created God in your own image when God hates all the same people that you hate, right? We do not take to whom are we praying for granted. We can also be cautious about prayer when it is conflated with wishful thinking or magical thinking or the chance at miracles that seem reserved for some people but not for everyone. We can be indifferent to prayer when it rubs against our secular and scientific ways of understanding our world, or even our sacred ways of considering our world with awe and with wonder, but without belief in a supernatural, omnipotent being. So how might we, as UUs gathered under a big theological tent, get comfortable with prayer as a personal spiritual practice? I invite us to pause for just a moment to ease away from that to whom question and to move with good-natured curiosity towards questions of what and why. So first, let's consider the what elements and characteristics of prayers. What those are, they're printed in your Spirit of Practice handout for today near the middle of the page, and it says characteristics of prayer and meditation. These are elements and characteristics. These elements and characteristics include humility, a release, a surrender, an admission that there are things beyond my control. There are things beyond our control. And the recognition that there is always going to be more to a person's story than we are ever likely to know. Reverence is an element of prayer. It's a recognition that life itself is a miracle. Being part of an interdependent web of existence is a miracle. Marcus Aurelius said it this way: when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. We, as Unitarian Universalists, I believe, have reverence for all of these things. Gratitude. We have so much for which we can be grateful, and no one knows your litany of gratitude as well as you know it. Yearning and longing. So Choki Nyama Rinpoche writes about the profound sadness that overwhelms us when we understand the impermanent nature of all phenomena, and the way that such understanding opens us up to the world around us. Just want to sit with that for a minute. That recognition. Do you ever have those moments that sweep across you when you realize, oh my God, all of this is impermanent, and I'm part of all this, and I'm impermanent too. It opens us up to noticing things and to an awareness of things that are different. That way of understanding the world also speaks, I think, to our vulnerability, as well as the connection and belonging that are also characteristics of prayer. So where is my place? Who are my people? What is my legacy? Will it even matter that I've been here? Who will remember me? Hope and forgiveness reflect the best of being human, I believe, and both contemplative and meditative prayer are safe practices to examine the hopes, the hurts, and choices integral to our lifelong transformations, incomplete and imperfect as they are, as we ever will be. What will you do with your one wild and precious life, asked the poet, and within that question are at least two more. What do you hope for? And what or whom needs your forgiveness by now? For your own sake, if not for theirs. Finally, inner quiet and intimacy are also characteristics of prayer and meditation. There's a saying that there's so much noise around us that we can't hear ourselves think. I would add that there's so much noise within us that we can't feel ourselves feel. So many distractions. Prayer as a spiritual practice is invitation to become intimate friends with our calm mind, our quieted spirit, our knowing heart. So those are kind of the what elements, the characteristics of prayers. Your insert also includes a section on different kinds of prayers. These are the why we pray. These are the why we pray, including asking for what we need. Those are prayers of supplication and petition. Offering praise and reverence are prayers of blessing and adoration. Asking or naming what others may need, that is intercessory prayer. I want to say something about that before I go on. Often when I'm working at the hospital, I pray a lot every day with people. I pray aloud all day long. That's part of what I do as a chaplain. And one of the things, I can hold it together. Man, you guys, I can hold it together in a lot of hard moments. But I'm telling you, it takes every professional thing in me when I am praying, especially for a person who is dying. And the first thing they ask for, I ask them, because I never presume I know what people want me to pray for. I always ask them, what is it you would like for me to pray for? And I'm telling you, when they say my family or a specific member of their family, because they are a dying person and their first prayer is for someone else, I'm telling you, it gets me, and I hope it never doesn't get me, if that makes sense. If there ever comes a time when I'm not moved by that, then I need to hang up my chaplain's shoes, because that intercessory prayer is an astounding practice. So intercessory prayer is naming or asking for what others may need. There is naming and befriending our deep sorrows. These are prayers of lament. There are prayers expressing our deep gratitude. Those are prayers of thanksgiving. Many prayers are combinations of these reasons why we pray. So with a better understanding of the characteristics of prayer, the what, as well as reasons for the prayer, that's the why, we're going to practice prayer this morning in this safe and sacred space and time that we create and sustain together. Before I go on, I'm going to say this. I got a heads up before the service began that our fire alarm may go off, so please know that is not some cruel joke that we are trying to play on you if we enter a time of prayer. We're hoping it. David's on it, so we're trying to prevent that. But please know that may happen, and welcome to also the world of the hospital. It will be a code red in hospital terms, so but it's a false alarm, not to worry, okay? So. But with a better understanding now of the characteristics of the what are the elements of prayer and why are we praying, we're going to do that together this morning. We're going to pray privately and silently. And I ask everyone to please respect this time of shared silence. You may choose to pray one of the kinds of prayers that are listed in the handout. You may choose a prayer that's a combination of those things or none of those things, but a prayer that is personal and meaningful to you. As is Unitarian Universalist to the core, you get to choose the to whom this may concern when you address your prayer. And in case you need them, I want to offer you some possibilities. Spirit of life in which all things are reconciled. Or wise silence. Or beloved mystery. I pray a dozen times a day as a hospital chaplain and begin my prayers with God of mercy and compassion and eternal love, because that's the kind of God I must believe in and the one to whom I can authentically pray with those who need that particular language of reverence, that particular language of the Spirit. You may just begin praying, trusting that the words in your heart will be witnessed and felt where they are most needed, including by you. And one more thing. As we begin our time of shared and prayerful silence, I invite you to relax your bodies, your minds, your spirits, even ease away from the question, to whom am I praying? Surrender any perfectionist checklist about the what characteristics of prayer or the why kinds of prayers. I encourage you to simply embrace this question. What needs my attention? What needs my attention? These are from the words of Mary Oliver we open with. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention. I don't know exactly what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention. In the holy quiet of this space and time, what most needs your attention? We're going to share about 5 minutes of quiet, reverent, prayerful, meditative time together. For many of us, that's going to feel like 60 minutes. But I promise I'll keep watch. You're going to be safe here. I'll chime us back in. And if there's time following our practice, I'll ask a few of you to share what this experience was like for you. So we continue together in silence. Thank you for being good faith companions in this practice today. I hope that it sparked something meaningful for you. Check in with your body. How does your body feel after that time of prayer and stillness and silence? How about your mind and your heart and your spirit? Did it make a difference to you to think of prayer as connecting with something that needs your attention? Did that make a difference to anyone? Manny says yes. John said yeah. Liz, thank you. Were there any characteristics of prayer or meditation that helped you engage this practice in a new or different way? So food for thought as you take this with you. Does anybody like to share about their experience today? No pressure. I just want to make the opportunity if you want to say anything. Donna.
It felt very good and very comforting because I felt focused on what I was specifically praying for. But then I found out how easily I could get off track on a tangent if I was thinking about a particular person I was praying for.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would remind me of something and then something else, and I had to draw myself back,
Mm-hmm.
which I did instead of berating myself for not being able to do it better.
Good. I was just going to say, so I hope that you gave yourself grace and non-judgment around that. Because listen, that's what our minds are built to do, and they will fight us to the mat to be able to do that. So be gentle with yourself. It's like, no, I'm not quite done. I think I'm going to keep praying over here. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have something? Cindy.
So I grew up Catholic, and we were very used to saying the rosary, which was almost like a cadence or a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did for the first time is I took the Hail Mary, but I substituted words instead of, I said Hail Mary, Spirit of the Earth, and I substituted words and just repeated it over and over again. And for the first time, I was so surprised when the 5 minutes was up, because that repetition of a prayer like that is just what was ingrained in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had tried to fight going back to it, but maybe I just need to alter it because it's what worked back then.
You own the words. It's your spirituality. Thank you, Cindy. For those who may not have heard her, she said that having been raised Catholic and saying the Hail Mary was something that, is ingrained in her. But she chose different words to say in those certain phrases, and that made a difference. Is that a fair assessment of what you said? That made a difference, and that the time, instead of feeling repetitive, she was surprised at the time that it passed. We've got time for one final comment, if there is one, if anybody wants to share. Let's make sure I don't miss you. John?
I prayed myself. It was like a shopping list of things that I need to prioritize and I'm not doing it. So I had to tell myself to prioritize. So I did a little bit. Not a lot.
So in praying, I just make sure that I understand you, John, that in praying today, what needs your attention is me. I need my attention. And that you found a way to offer that attention to yourself and what you need. We think you're worth that too. Okay. So keep practicing, trust in your progress. I'll be around for a few minutes after this service if you have any questions or want to talk more privately about this. I welcome those conversations with you. In just a moment, we're going to rise in body or in spirit and sing our closing hymn. It's number 90 from All the Fret and Fever of the Day. But first, Eileen's going to play it through for us one time. She's going to play it all the way through so that we get the melody, and then we'll rise and sing it. Thank you, Eileen and choir. As Liz extinguishes the chalice, we close with the words of Howard Thurman. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Blessed be and go in peace.